even though it's 88. His name means God is victorious. Olusegun, and he's here today, ladies and gentlemen, the former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Yes, you did not miss it. That's former President Olusegun Obasanjo, the second day at the 32nd Afreximbank meetings in Abuja, and he appeared at the close of the event. I mean, some participants and delegates had left. They know that former President Obasanjo will come, and you can see him there active as usual. And he actually came for a conversation, a very serious-minded conversation, and he did drop some points that I think that you need to listen to, and that's why I captured a bit of that to share with you.
If we are going to take Africa as a continent, there are countries in Africa that must make it collectively for Africa to be able to make it together. I'm not talking of any African country not being important, but I'm talking of, using the simile that you have used, I'm talking of lions and cubs. And if you take that, what countries will you regard as lions? I would say about 6 or 7 of them. They are either you regard them as lions by virtue of their population or by virtue of their economic strength. Without any country or anybody feeling that I regard any country in Africa as inferior, no. But there are countries that must be taken along. And then if those countries make it and they are taken along, they can carry other countries along with them. Now, I would say Nigeria,
sure,
by virtue of its population. I would say Egypt, by virtue of its population. I would say Ethiopia, by virtue of its population. I would say DRC, by virtue of its area and population and the resources, the potential resources it has. I would say South Africa, by virtue of its economic position. Then, of course, after I've taken these 5 or 6, I will then start talking about others that must follow. I will take Kenya, I will take Senegal, I will take Morocco. Now, but if these countries really are moving, and they are moving together, they will move Africa forward. But are they moving? And that is the question. Are they moving? Now, these countries that we have mentioned, except 1 or 2, the others are not moving as they should move, without causing any displeasure. Let me start with my own country, Nigeria.
Sure. Are you talking about moving economically? If you can just give us a sense of the indicator that you're using to measure the movement, sir.
Yeah. Talking of moving economically.
Sure.
Economically. And of course, you cannot talk of economic without touching on political, because politics is the master of economics. Now, economically, Nigeria is not moving as it should be moving. Over the last 3 or so decades, we have taken 2 steps forward, 1 step aside, and maybe 1 or 2 steps backward. And you can say that for Ethiopia, not where it should be, or not what it should be doing, both politically and economically. You can say that for DRC. I was with the president of DRC last night. Not where it should be. It's not moving how it should be moving, both politically and economically. You can say at least economically South Africa has not been moving as it should move, even though it's probably the leading or one of the leading economies in Africa. Except probably Egypt, economically. We cannot say most of these lions in Africa are moving as they should move.
Sure.
And then when you also look at them politically, they are not where they should be.
Sure.
All right. So, in totality, therefore, if these countries are not moving as they should move politically, their economic movement is either retarded or slowed down or, in fact, retrogressed in some cases. Now, that is the situation. The lions are there. They are not moving as they should move. And they have to move as they should move before you get Africa.
How do we get these lions to move in a pack, in a collective, to achieve their overall catch?
How do we move? What should we do? I believe the beginning is knowledge. Knowledge. How much of the world do our leaders understand? The world we live in. How does it work? What makes it tick? What do we expect out of it? What can we get out of it? What does the world owe us as Africans? We need to know this. Now, if we have the knowledge, then we will be able to get the right policy at the national level. Well, I will start even at the community level, at the local level, at the national level, at the sub-regional level, and then at the continental level. Then that policy will relate to what the situation of the world that we are in. Now, we cannot expect the world to give us what the world will not give us. And we have lived too long on aid. We have lived too long on aid. Is aid the way that Africa should be expecting? I don't believe so. Now, if that is the case, what should we substitute for aid? what should we go about? Look at what we do. We run to Japan, TICAD. We run to China, and all the African leaders run to China for how much China will give us $20 billion. $20 billion, which a country in Africa can produce like that. Now, we must get it right. And we don't seem to get it right. And one of the few things that I believe in the last 20 years or so that we seem to have got right, and I hope we will continue to build on it, is the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. That, I believe, we have got it right. Now, and how many of our leaders even understand basic economics to be able to run the affairs of their country? Look at how we go about borrowing money and wasting money. Waste and corruption, they are strange bedfellows of development. And that is what most of our leaders engage in, waste and corruption. Now, if that is what we engage in, how do we expect our lion to be moving?
Is there not a framework that we can develop and successfully implement to stop the corruption that you're talking about systematically, sir?
Now, you are taking me to another area, and I will go to that area briefly.
Let's go.
I am saying that Western liberal democracy, which we inherited because from our colonial masters, need to be internalized and interrogated, because even for them it's no longer delivering. And why should we not interrogate it and see what aspect of it should work or should be amended or should be reviewed in our own interest? Shouldn't we look internally and look at our own system? In African system, we never talk of opposition. We sit down, we look at everything, we argue, and when we argue, we get consensus, communalism, not opposition and government. And then you go out, and then you work together. And it's not question of government and opposition. It's government of all.
Okay.
Everybody working together. And then, of course, in our own case, I don't blame the colonial power because they give us what they have. But we take it lock, stock, and barrel. Now, I believe the time has come for us to say, hey, it's not working for us. Even for them, it's not working.
Sure.
Okay. They are also asking. We should be in the forefront of asking, because you talk about system. What system do we have? And what does our system do? What does our system do? Our system now has been monetized. Our democracy is moneytocracy. Monetocracy.
Sure.
Not democracy. Monetocracy. Which means you buy. When I was growing up in my own village, I'm a village boy, you know. When I was growing up in the village, if you come to my village and you say, oh, look, government wants to do this, and we will bring money, and you say, oh, look, we will make you the treasurer, and the village people know that you are light-fingered, they will just say, oh, no, don't make her, her farm is too far. When we need her, she will not be around. Let us make this other one.
All right.
Now, today, if you have money, you will not be, nobody can stop you. You will buy everybody, and you will be the treasurer. And then you will, and the money that comes in will, of course, go into your pocket.
Sure.
So it is not democratic socialism, it's democratic sosapo. Put it in your.
Well, whenever we hear from former President Olusegun Obasanjo, you just need to take some words. I mean, now we have monetocracy and then democratic jesaku. If you're not Yoruba, you need to find the meaning of that. It was an interesting time yesterday. Another interesting time was, it felt like having President Donald Trump in the room when his former advisor came on stage, Jason Miller. And he told us, well, he spoke to President Trump in the morning just before he came on, and he shared some tips if you want to be friends or at least survive with President Donald Trump. He shared some tips, and here it is.
There will be DFC activity, US DFC activity, in dozens and dozens of nations in Africa. These are such great opportunities. And again, these aren't opportunities that are going to leave countries saddled with debt. These are opportunities that are going to help you build the infrastructure in your countries and help you make money for you and for your people. That is a distinct difference between other folks who might dangle the shiny objects at you. I think that is more and more, and this is why I talk about the reforms that are needed. So if you're going to have a big, massive giant such as PIMCO or Vanguard or BlackRock or any of these mega investment companies that effectively is the closest thing we have to sovereign wealth organizations, when they come in with these big amounts of capital, because keep in mind, they're effectively managing retirement portfolios, they're managing people's savings, they're managing their futures. The rule of law has to be strictly adhered to. They have to know that contracts are going to be enforced. As I said, they have to know that efforts are being made to eliminate corruption. Otherwise, they can't take that gamble with people's livelihoods. But if countries in Africa can continue to make these reforms, and I know I only name-checked Nigeria for an important reform, but so many other countries are making very important reforms, and I commend you for that. Continue doing that, because that will open the door for the big amounts of capital to come into Africa. So I spoke with President Trump earlier today, and I told him that I was going to be joining the Afrexim Bank and Professor Orama and so many dignitaries here, and asked him if there was any particular message that he wanted me to share. And he said very simply, said, Jace, everybody wants to do business and wants to trade with the United States. People that treat us well, we're going to treat well also. It's that simple. It's about reciprocity. It's about mutual respect. Now, one thing I would say is that any leader going to meet with President Trump, and again, this could be from Africa, this could be the president of Ukraine, it could be any leader, would be well served to do a couple of basic things before the meeting. Number one, you want to follow his social media account. The great thing about President Trump is he's transparent. He tells you exactly what he's thinking. You do not have to guess about where your standing is or what's going on. Second, President Trump is not someone who I would set up a meeting to go talk to just to get a photo and say that you've met President Trump. If you go in to have a meeting with President Trump, he is going to have a very specific set of questions and asks and things that he's going to want to raise with you. A leader should know what those are going to be before they go and sit down. But I say this, leaders who are going to sit down with the president should also be prepared with their own asks as well. They should have what they want to bring up to President Trump, because again, life is too short. We have a finite number of days with President Trump in the White House. The time for let's smile and get a photo, you can do those. We saw, for example, at when he was in Canada and at G7 and he left early because he's like, we have to bring about world peace. I don't want to sit around doing photos with people. I think the other thing too, and this is why I referenced Africa being so much more important with the United States this go round, and why you see the DFC and other organizations looking to put so much money into Africa, is because we saw what the last 4 years of neglect look like. I mean, obviously, I'm an American. I'm not a fan of the previous president. You can probably guess that since I worked for President Trump for all 3 of his campaigns. But so many areas of the world were neglected under the previous 4 years. Now President Trump wants to change that. He wants to right those wrongs and make sure that people know that the U.S. is open for business and the U.S. is going to be your friend. Not with happy talk, but with results.
Africa is underrepresented in global forums. And it's not really part of the global power structure. What can US do, or the current administration do, to help facilitate Africa having more of a voice at the table?
So I'd go and reverse that one a bit, and I think we're almost, the way that's presented, solving for the wrong variable. Here's what I mean. What's going to help elevate Africa's presence on the global stage, in addition to the efforts of bringing about peace and international investment, it's going to be a lot of the business leaders. It's going to be a lot of the CEOs, not necessarily more bureaucrats. No offense to any bureaucrats who are here. But it's going to be, we need more Alikos. We need more Strives. We need more Tonys. We need more of the CEOs representing, whether it be their countries and their companies, and showing that Africa can be a powerhouse. And Shankar, that when we talk about what's different now, why do I keep saying that Africa has this great future? Why did I travel here to see Professor Orama and so many others? Is because I believe in Africa's future. We saw with the recent trade dispute how things such as rare earths and critical minerals have put the resources that Africa has in such a key critical global position. And that's why I said it can't, when someone comes in, whether it's the United States, whether it's another country or companies from other countries, it's not about just them being able to get from the mine to the ships and then send it back to their country. Countries and companies in Africa must be demanding more and say, if you're going to pay us to take products from here, we need infrastructure, we need help with building our data centers, industries for the future. You look at the population growth, as I name checked. The population growth in Africa is so big, and there's so much advancement, especially in the realm of tech, that this can be an AI and tech powerhouse. I actually didn't even realize this until just before I came, that tech is now a bigger percentage of GDP for Nigeria, for example, than even oil. Because as countries start to diversify their economies, that's a good thing, because then aren't so reliant just on whether it be excavation or whether it be oil. Diversifying the economy also, I think, plays a big part in helping to get rid of corruption, quite frankly, because then certain people can't hold the rest of the country hostage. And so there's a lot of opportunity with Africa, and I very much believe in it.